Okay. Okay. Okay, very good. Today we're going to talk about the Ebionites. Anybody ever heard of them? Never even heard of them? Wow, great. This is going to be a good teaching for you then. Good. The Ebionites. I haven't got that far yet. Let's go here. Still working out the bugs here. Okay, in the next couple weeks or so, we're going to be learning about the sect of the Nazarenes. As I'm sure all of you know, this was one of the early names of the first Messianics, incorrectly named the first church. It wasn't the first church. Wow, everybody just left. Okay. There was no first church. That was a name. The name church didn't even exist. That didn't exist till much, much later. So before we get into more information on the sect of the Nazarenes, we need to know who they were not. Okay? They were not the Ebionites. Who are the Ebionites? And why should we even care about who they are? We're going to talk about who they are, and then I'm going to explain to you that some of you personally knew some Ebionites. Personally do. The Ebionites were an ancient sect who are still around to this day. You can actually find their website at www.ebionite.org. They're still around, so you can find that. Today's Ebionites believe they are the same today as they used to be in ancient times. It's not true, and later we're going to go over what those differences are. Why do you need to know who these Ebionite people are? Well, because if you don't, you could easily be deceived and drawn into their cult. How could you fall into a cult that you don't even know anything about? Because you're about to learn about them, and they have a very strong appeal to those who are searching out the Hebrew roots of the faith. A very strong appeal. They're a very smart group of people. They have some very persuasive arguments with the backing of some credible scholars. And if you don't know your Jewish history well, there's very little to protect you from their misinformation. Many a Messianic has defected into Ebionism. And to this day, I've never seen one come out of it. Not one. If I thought you'd never come across the Ebionites in your own studies, I wouldn't even be talking about them. But some of you are kind of known to be avid students here. So we have to talk about them because your discovery of them is inevitable. As you go and you study the sect of the Nazarenes, you will come across this group. There's nothing to fear of them as long as you remain in the truth and you use your head a little bit, as well as this information when you read their material. We're also going to find out that there is an entire church denomination today that is a very close relative of the Ebionites. So we're going to first look at the origins of this group, and I'll share with you who they really are, and then we'll see who they say they are from their own manifesto. There's a lot of confusion as to who the Ebionites were originally. The earlier church fathers even seem to not have a good grasp as to when this sect emerged and who it included. There is so much confusion that some honest scholars, good people, good scholars, today have come to believe falsely that if they could sum up who the early Ebionites were, they could then successfully define who the sect of the Nazarenes were. Their mistake is in thinking that the Ebionites are the direct heir of the Jewish apostolic first Messianic community. That's where they begin to falter. But believing that requires some mental gymnastics. One thing we need to be aware of is that there were many different sects that emerged early on, soon after Yeshua. Epiphanius, I have quoted him before, some of you are familiar with him. He names 80 of these sects that existed in the beginnings of the church. 80 different sects. And many of them, what they did is they would mix Judaism and Christianity, a little bit of Judaism, a little bit of Christianity together. And it takes a lot of time and effort distinguishing them and exposing these hybrids. But it can be done. Oh, did I miss one? There we go. Just a few of these sects were called the Cerinthians, the Basilidians, the Carpocratians, the Hypsisterians, the Samakians, the Audians, and the Elkosites. These were just a few of those groups who were emerging in the first century. We're going to be studying those sects. We'll be studying them later in this course, not today. And we're going to be filling in the lacunae, or the missing pieces, as we progress. So let's first take a look at their name. Ebion comes from the Hebrew word ebion. Ebion. And what that means in English is poor. That's what the word means. So Ebionites, or Ebionim, means poor people. There are some scholars who believe that all the first believers, right from the time of Yeshua, were first called Ebionim. They use a quote from one of the church fathers, again Epiphanius. And Epiphanius lived from 320 to 403 AD, and they quote him here to support that claim. This is what he writes. He says, Ebionite was at first a common name for all Christians. That's what he says. That Ebionite was what they all called the first Christians. It looks pretty clear cut there, if you were to just go with that. But Epiphanius is actually mistranslated here, because he himself speaks of the sect of the Nazarenes as if they were a separate group who were also followers of Yeshua. So when it says that all of them were called that, he doesn't mean all as 100%. Okay? According to Paul, the followers of Yeshua, they called themselves Jews. That's what they called themselves. They said, we're Jews. More particularly, the sect of the Jews called the Nazarenes, which was a subsect of the Pharisees. That's who they were. Yeah. Okay. Where did I lose you? We were called Jews at first. Okay, I'm saying there are two different groups. There's the Ebionites, and there's the sect of the Nazarenes. They're not the same people.
So now you're talking about the Nazarenes?
The sect of the Nazarenes were the first believers.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's who you're talking about now?
Yeah, I'm talking about, I'm saying there's two different groups. Okay. Maybe as I go on, it might clear it up for you a little bit. Okay? Hang in there. We also want, is everybody else understanding what I'm saying? There's two different groups. We're all clear on that. Okay. I know, I go a little bit fast sometimes. We also want to remember that just because somebody calls somebody else a derogatory name, like poor person, Ebion, that doesn't mean that's what they called themselves. They didn't call themselves Ebionites. We're talking about the Ebionites. No different than the fact that the word Christian was also first used as a derogatory term. The word Christian was not a good thing. It was used as a derogatory term. So no, all the first believers were not called Ebionites. That's kind of my first point. All the first believers were not called Ebionites. Some scholars today believe that the Ebionites and the sect of the Nazarenes were identical, that they're the same group. That they're saying they were just synonyms for the same group of people. The church father Origen, do you guys remember him? The church father Origen? He was the guy that cut off all his private parts because he thought they were offending him. Do you remember that guy? He believed that any evil thought that came into his mind was a sin. And if you think it, it's just as if you've done it. That's the way he interpreted that. And since he thought he was in sin, he chopped it off. He chopped off his private parts. Anyways, that's the guy that we're going to quote here. He wrote this. He said, "For Ebion signifies poor among the Jews, and those Jews who have received Jesus as Christ are called by the name of Ebionites." Again, it seems pretty clear. Sounds like they're saying, and that's what these Ebionites will draw on. They'll say the first church were actually Ebionites, but it's not true. Let's remember also that Origen was born in 184 AD, and he died around 253 AD. By the time he was an adult, it was over 100 years after the death of Yeshua. Okay, so it was quite a long time afterwards. We want to keep that in mind. Origen also believed in the apokatastasis. The apokatastasis. That particular belief is that in the end, all beings, even Satan, would be reconciled to God. What he's saying there is that God and Satan are going to be buddies in the end. It's not true. So he's not always reliable. Certainly many other church fathers disagree with this portrayal of the Ebionites and see the Ebionites as complete heretics. So why did they believe that? Why did they believe these Ebionites were heretics? So some of their reasons were good. Some of their reasons were not so good. One good reason they had against the Ebionites was because the Ebionites believed in what we call in Bible school adoptive Christology. Adoptive Christology. Well, we know what Christology means because Christ being Christos. Logia comes from the word to study. So adoptive Christology means the study of Christ being adopted. They're saying that he didn't really come from God immediately. Later on, he was actually adopted, that Yeshua was adopted by God. That's what they teach. That's what the Ebionites believed. So what the Ebionites taught was that Yeshua was a mere man until God adopted him at his mikvah, at his baptism. When he was given a mikvah by Yochanan the Immerser, John the Baptist, they're saying that's when he was adopted. And they weren't the only ones that taught that back then either. The Cerinthians also taught adoptive Christology. So now that we're starting to see these differences, we really begin to see a difference between the Ebionites and the sect of the Nazarenes. We know that the disciples didn't believe all that nonsense, adoptive Christology and all these other silly doctrines. We know they didn't believe in that. The Ebionites also did not believe in a virgin birth. They also did not believe in a virgin birth. And they believed that Yeshua was a mere man when he was born. And by believing that, they didn't believe in a kinsman redeemer. They did not believe in a kinsman redeemer. What I would say to you is that without a virgin birth, there's no redemption from sin. There is no redemption from sin if there is no virgin birth. They're not the same group. The so-called church father, Irenaeus, wrote this. He said they use the gospel, according to Matthew, only and repudiate the apostle Paul, saying he was an apostate from law. This is Ebionite doctrine. Okay? So now not only did they rip out 3 of the gospels, they're only using Matthew, they got rid of the other ones, but they also took out all of Rabbi Shaul's writings. They got rid of all of Paul's writings. Now, I think Paul is often misunderstood, but I don't think we should be throwing out his writings, and I certainly don't think he was an apostate. So we have to call Origen's remarks into question. Many of these same church fathers also saw the Ebionites as heretics for the wrong reasons. Those ones we just did, those are all the right reasons. There's a bunch of wrong reasons too. And those major reasons being that they felt the Ebionites were heretics because the Ebionites followed parts of the law. So they said they're heretics, they also follow parts of the law. Well, the fact that the Ebionites did follow some of God's law is a good thing. It actually works in their favor. But it doesn't negate the heresy that they taught alongside of it. So I want to recap their main theology real quick. This is their main theology. We're only talking about the ancient Ebionites at this point. They didn't believe he is God. They didn't believe Yeshua was born of a virgin. They threw out 3 of the Gospels and all of Paul's writings. So we want to remember this about the Ebionites. They even had their own gospel. It was called the Ebionite Gospel. We only have some excerpts that have survived over the thousands of years. But what we have that has survived, we see some big differences. This gospel has some major differences from the Bible. A few examples of what I'm talking about here. Here's what it says in one part. It says, he himself, being the only true prophet, fittingly gave names to each animal. It's talking about Adam, according to the merits of its nature as having made it. It goes on. For if he gave a name to anyone, that was also the name of that which was made, being given by him who made it. He's referencing Genesis in this portion. How then had he still, this is them still need to partake of a tree, that he might know what is good and what is evil? if he was commanded not to eat of it. He's saying that Adam didn't eat of the tree. That's what they're saying here. But this, senseless men believe. Stupid people believe that he did. Who think that a reasonless beast was more powerful than the God who made all these things. So what the gospel of the Ebionites is saying here is that Adam never fell. They're saying he never ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Here's another excerpt from their writing. It says this, Then Peter answered, Assuredly, with good reason, I neither believe anything against God, nor against the just men recorded in the law, taking for granted they are impious imaginations. For as I am persuaded, neither was Adam a transgressor. So now we see that again, where they do not believe that Adam fell, who was fashioned by the hands of God, nor was Noah drunken. You guys know that story, right? Where Noah gets drunk, and they're saying that didn't happen either. Okay? Who was found righteous above all the world. Nor did Abraham live with 3 wives at once, they say. Okay? So he wasn't a polygamist. Who on account of his sobriety was thought worthy of a numerous posterity. Nor did Jacob associate with 4, of whom 2 were sisters. The whole story of the sisters. They're ripping it out of their Bible. Okay? Who was the father of 12 tribes. And who intimated the coming of the presence of our master. Nor was Moses a murderer. He's saying the whole thing with the Egyptian, he killed the Egyptian. That didn't happen. Nor did he learn to judge from an idolatrous priest. He who set forth the law of God to all of the world. So quite a few differences now. We're seeing quite a few differences here. Noah didn't get drunk. Abraham didn't have more than 1 wife. Neither did Jacob. Moses never murdered the Egyptian, and so forth. So why is all this confusion in the thinking that they were the same group as the Nazarenes? Well, the main reason is because the Ebionites split from the Nazarene. They split from the Nazarenes early on. Early on, there was this power struggle between the 2 sects, and the Ebionites split off from the Nazarenes. They're one of the first groups to do so. You know what happens when you split off from an ordained group. You kind of slide off into strange fire. That's what happens, and that's what they did. They went off into strange fire. And as you see from the theology of the Ebionites, did they ever slide off? They went quite a ways off. And it doesn't take long to do that. I knew a guy who I used to study with, and he decided to go and do his own thing, and he decided it was okay to incorporate illegal drugs into the faith. That's what he thought. I was like, really? I don't think that's good. And you may say, well, we don't know anybody who believes anything like the Ebionites believed. Well, actually, most of you do. We had people here who attended who did believe in some of the same tenets as the Ebionites. Enough of these theological points to be actually classified as Ebionites. They don't attend here any longer. And I tried to bring them out of their heresy, although I was unsuccessful. If people don't want the truth, there's really nothing you can do about that. You can try to persuade them, try to talk to them, do everything you can. But if they want to persist in goofy theology, they can do that. And I'm not saying all this to bash those people. I'm telling you this so that you can know how close it is. It's very, very close. Ebionism is not something far from us. And just because someone doesn't call themselves Ebionites, that doesn't mean that's not what they are. Someone comes to me and they tell me they believe in the Book of Mormon, and they say, but I'm not a Mormon. Well, I'm sorry. You're a Mormon. You know what I mean? If they come and they tell me, they believe in the Quran, but they're not Muslims, I'm sorry, they're a Muslim. That's just how it works. Likewise, there is an entire church denomination that believes in the same main tenets, not 100% of them, not all of them, but they believe in the same main tenets of Ebionism. Did I lose my place here? Okay. There we go. Yes, right now. That's it right there. The Unitarian Church, you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Unitarians, okay. The Unitarian Church was first started in 1568 in Transylvania, Romania, in a very small town called Cluj-Napoca. This is the church that it started in. They've redone it, but that's the actual church where the Unitarians started. The reason I tell you that is that church is about 4 blocks down from where I used to live on Baba Novak Street when I lived in Romania. It's just 4 blocks down from there. I want to show you a picture real quick. Okay, so it was right down this street here. This is a main street. This is right downtown in Cluj-Napoca. This is their main park. This was like Central Park. This was their big opera house. And I don't know why Google does put these things in there, but it looks like Google put these white patches. But I used to live in that apartment right there. This whole top part was a penthouse. I lived right there in Romania, just down the street from where this Unitarian church was. Though the Unitarians do not see themselves as Ebionites, I just wanted to show you that. I don't know why. But that's Cluj-Napoca. It's really close to where Vlad the Impaler used to live. He used to live just down 20 miles from me. I mean, he was dead by the time I got there. But that's the area. That's where the area he's from. So though the Unitarians do not see themselves as Ebionites, they do not call themselves that. Even though they say that, they are still Ebionites. And it's nothing new. Most sects and cults and religions today aren't anything new. They really aren't. There's nothing creative about them. They basically just rehash Satan's old tricks. That's all they do. Satan can't create. He can only imitate. That's all he can do. The Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons have also adopted the main theme of the Ebionites. They too do not believe that Yeshua is God. They may accept all the Gospels and Paul's writings, but stripping Yeshua of his deity is Ebionistic in nature. Today's Ebionites do not claim that the Mormons, the JWs, or any Christian denominations, they don't claim them either, but they are still Ebionites. The Ebionites see the Unitarians, the JWs, and the Mormons as Christian. If you ask them what are those sects, they'll say they're all Christian. And today's Ebionites do not see themselves as Christians. There you go. There you go. That's another one. Yep. Sorry, I shouldn't have hit that. As we delve into this part, we have to realize that today there are different sects or different branches of Ebionites. So there's different Ebionites out there today. And they kind of go on with each other. Well, this branch over here will say, well, that group over there, they're not Ebionites, even though they call themselves Ebionites. And then they say, oh, that group over there, they're not really Ebionites. We're the only true Ebionites. And they have this big kind of discussion going on between them, I guess. For the most part, all the Ebionites consider themselves Jews. That's what they consider themselves. Although they have very little in common with the Orthodox or the Karaites. Are you guys familiar with the Karaites? Okay, we'll do a whole teaching on the Karaites one of these days. Nobody else even considers them to be Jews. We all look at them and we're like, you're not really a Jew. You know? But they think they are. Though they say they accept the entire law, they actually only accept parts of it. They don't believe in the entire law of Moses. They only take bits and pieces. So they pick and choose, they pick and choose what they want to believe. So what do they say that they do believe today? Now let's see what they say themselves. Here's a list of their goals. We're going to look at them one by one. You can get this off their website too. They say they believe in the promotion of monotheistic Yahwism. That's how they put it. In their view, they believe in quote-unquote true Judaism, which they call Yahwism, and Yahwism is from the Arabic slur of Yahweh. There is no Yahweh. It's an Arabic slur. But that's what they say. The second goal that they have is the promotion of this to Gentiles. So in their view, they want to reach out to the Gentiles of the world and convert them to Ebionism. The third goal they have is the restoration of the good name of Yahshua ben Yosef as a righteous Jew. They say this necessitates the deconstruction of the mythological Jesus of Christianity. They're saying that's a whole different Jesus. Okay? They go on saying, disproving that Christianity is a biblically related religion. So they're kind of slamming the Christians there. What they mean by that, excuse me, is that they want to correct the wrong idea, according to them, that Yeshua was deity. They're saying he wasn't deity. So they used to believe that in the ancient times. They also believe that today. They believe that the idea that Yeshua is God, they believe that is a myth. So the fourth one, they believe, social justice but based on honesty. This is their goal. And love in the context of the Bible. That being, they want to wrap all these goofy ideas they got. They want to wrap them all in love and their idea of what context of Scripture really is. That's what they mean by that. They also don't believe that Yeshua is the Messiah. So they don't only believe he's not God, they also believe that he's not the Messiah. We'll see here what they say. This is from their thing, there are a number of Christian-derived fringe groups who have misrepresented themselves as Ebionites. They are often Pentecostals, non-denominational, right-wing conservative, anti-government, anti-authority, and apocalyptic, if not Gnostic. This is what they're saying. There's different people out there saying that they're Ebionites, and they're not, according to them. They go on with this. They say they commandeer the name Ebionite to further another extremist agenda. Some of these groups maintain relations with other extremist groups and began as extremist Christians. So a lot of these we can kind of read between the lines here. A lot of people that are Ebionites were originally Christians. So that's who they go after. They go on. Likewise, they are Jews for Jesus type. That would be us. We're the Jews for Jesus type. People who would insist that they are Ebionites, yet promote a belief that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah, or maintain other Christian beliefs. Jesus was not the Messiah, and they are not Ebionites. So right from their own words here, they're saying that they do not believe that Yeshua is the Messiah. They go further. It says, we are in no way Christian. They want to separate themselves from it. We are not Christians or supportive of Christianity. We consider Christianity to be a type of mystery religion devised by Paul of Tarsus and others. Excuse me, they say we believe that there is no relationship between Christianity, actually better described as Paulism. That's one of their buzzwords right there. When they say Paulism, they're talking basically about Christians. And the man that Christians refer to as Jesus. For that matter, they go on, since Christians often claim that Christian means Christ-like, that is, like Jesus, it is most unfortunate that there are few who can honestly make that claim. I don't know what kind of goofiness that is, but it's a cheap shot. It is a cheap shot. Some scholars categorize the ancient Ebionites as Christian. This is them speaking still. Or Jewish Christian. That description is unjustified and untenable. In fact, well, here they're right. In fact, there is no such thing as a Jewish Christian, just as there are no Muslim Christians. That's the only thing they got right in their whole spiel there. And they don't sound very friendly to Christians, do they? It seems like they're very much against them. Yet then they quickly backtrack from there, and this is what they say. They say, for Ebionites, there is a difference between Christians and Christianity. We look at Christians as individuals, just as we look at anyone, no matter if they are Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Wiccan, or any other religion. They go on with this. Oh, this really nails them. And not only that, but we believe that every person that pursues righteousness and loving kindness has a place in Olam Haba. This is from their website. The time of peace and new creation, which Christians call paradise. Yahweh is a righteous judge who wants good for all his creation. Do you see what they're saying there? Okay, so they're attacking Christians and Messianic beliefs in the beginning, but they recruit from these fields, so then they turn around and they kind of, I'm going to paraphrase, but they turn the whole thing around. They say, but hey, everybody that's good is going to heaven, even the Wiccans. Okay, that's what they said. Everybody that is righteous makes it to paradise. That's what they said. Okay, so you see there's really no kind of end in that kind of theology. Anybody that's good goes to heaven. All the good people are going to heaven. We actually see something different from that. I didn't do that. There we go. Yeah. There's no end to that kind of theology. It says in Judges 17:6, it says this: "In those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes." Okay? It's not all good people go to heaven. They may think they're doing right, but they're not. Okay? They're not. There's another verse here. This is a really good one. Proverbs 14:12. It says, "There is a way which seemeth right unto a man," but how does it end? In death and destruction. It doesn't say there. It says, "There is a way which seemeth wrong unto a man." Okay? This is about people who think they are doing right, and they're not. It's a very interesting verse. If it's anyone who's good gets to go to heaven, then you have a broad path. Okay? That's when you have a broad path. Yeshua said it's a narrow path. And I'm sorry if that goes against your opinion, but that is Scripture. Those are God's words, not mine. If it was my way, it would be anyone who's good would make it. That's just how I would be. It's just part of my personality. I'd like, well, anybody that's good goes to heaven. Okay? But it's not my way. It's not my way at all. It is God's way, and He knows best. Both of my older brothers have rejected the truth, my two older brothers. They're the nicest guys you'll ever meet. If they needed a kidney, I wouldn't hesitate to donate one to them. I would take a bullet for either one of my brothers. But that doesn't mean they're going to make it to heaven. You see? It doesn't mean that. God's rules, not my rules, and I trust that He knows better. If you mix your opinion with theology, you are entering into strange fire. That's how it works. I'd love for anybody to prove to me with Scripture that nice people or people that we love are going to heaven, even if they reject the truth. I'd love to hear that kind of proof. I'd be like, hey, great, my brothers are going to heaven. Great. Okay? You would make my year. You'd be telling me that my brothers are going to heaven. They believe in Jesus, but you know what? So do the demons. The demons also believe that. Somebody might say, well, but have they made Jesus Lord of their life? Have they done that? Well, I can tell you this. The only way that Jesus is Lord of your life is if you continually follow the truth. Okay? If you begin to reject the truth, it's called apostasy. That's what it is. It's apostasy. It means you're a backslider. Okay? You can't just pick the truths that you like. It doesn't work that way. Yes, of course, the ignorance factor is always in play. That's always in play. But don't kid yourself that God hasn't already tried to speak the truth to everyone you know. Okay? Otherwise, He would not be a merciful God, would He? If He hasn't tried and continually tried to reach out to the people that we love. If we think that, oh, they just don't know, and no, He has tried to give them the truth. He really has. So now we know from which spirit the modern day Ebionite is coming from. It's right on their own documentation. It's important that we understand that. As we grow here at Beta Venu, there will be Ebionites who come to visit us. They will come. They always do. That is not a prophecy. It's the law of averages. Okay? There's an Ebionite who visits one of our congregations up in Canada. He attends fairly regularly. He's a very nice guy. He's probably going to be watching me on video, but he's a very nice guy. We haven't designated him as an Ebionite. We don't say, oh, that guy's an Ebionite. He calls himself that. He says, I am an Ebionite. Sometimes the Ebionites will come to learn. Sometimes they come to recruit. That happens. If they just come to sit in, we let them. If they try to recruit, we ask them to leave. Even if they're really nice people. This guy up in Canada is a very nice guy. He doesn't try to recruit. He just listens and learns. But if they try to recruit, we ask them to leave. There may be times in the future that the leadership has to ask people to leave. You may have even become friends with them by that time. It's possible. They could be sitting in 4 or 5 times, you become friends with them. But if they try to recruit, we have to ask them to leave. I may have become friends with them. But the spiritual welfare of the community has to be cared for. The leaders here at Beta Venu, as well as the leadership that's going to develop soon up there in Leavenworth and Chelan, will sometimes have to make some very difficult calls. But I just want you guys to know that they're doing it with a heart to protect you. Okay? Sometimes we make mistakes, but God will cover you in spite of our own blunders as long as you do what you're supposed to do. Okay? So let's summarize real quick. Oh, I missed it. There we go. Okay. I missed it. Hang on just a second. Okay. 1. There's differences between the ancient Ebionites and the sect of the Nazarenes. They are not the same. That's 1. 2. The ancient Ebionites did not believe that Yeshua was God. They are a cult. Okay. 3. They had their own gospel, which was contradictory to the scriptures. 4. There are church denominations as well as individuals who are Ebionistic in nature. 5. There are different groups today that call themselves Ebionites, and they don't all agree with each other. 6. Ebionites have been to our congregation, and more may come in the future, so it's important that we know who and what they are. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, what we're going to be doing, that was the end of the summary. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be looking at the name Nazarene specifically. We'll see where it came from and what it means. We'll see what the New Testament actually says about the sect of the Nazarenes. And we'll examine what some of the early church stepfathers had to say about us. Did I do that one? There we go. We'll look at their migration to Pella after the Bar Kokhba War, and some ancient Nazarene commentary that has survived via the writings of one of the early church stepfathers. Did you know they had a commentary? I mean, you guys realize who these people are. The sect of the Nazarenes are the first church. They're the first people that followed Yeshua. They had a commentary, and some of that has survived. Wouldn't you like to know what they had to say? You know what I mean? So we'll be looking at that. Remember, the sect of the Nazarenes were the first believers in Yeshua. They have this commentary. And to think, you didn't even know there was a Nazarene commentary. So we're going to find out more about that. We will also take a look at a prayer that is said to this day in almost every synagogue out there. There is a prayer where they stand up in synagogue and they pray against the Nazarenes, the sect of the Nazarenes, in almost every synagogue. We'll find out, why did they curse us? We're going to find out in the weeks to come. So let's stand for the benediction. Borchenu, Ovenu, Kulonu ke'echad, ba'or penecho, ki va'or penecho nosato lanu. Adonai Eloheinu, Torah chayim ve'havas chesed. Uzdoko, uvrocho, ve'rachamim, ve'chayim ve'shalom, ve'tov be'enecho, le've'orach, es am chol Yisrael, ve'chol es uvcho, shu'o, bishlomecho. Baruch atah Adonai, ham voreach, es amo Yisrael, be'shalom. Bless us, our Father, all of us as one, with the light of your countenance. For with the light of your countenance, you, Hashem, our God, gave us the Torah of life, and a love of kindness, righteousness, blessing, compassion, life, and peace. And may it be good in your eyes to bless your people Israel at every time and at every hour with your peace. Blessed are you, Hashem, who blesses his people Israel with peace. Amen. Rabbi. Shabbat shalom. Yes. Huh? New moon's tonight. New moon, Rosh Chodesh is tonight. Do you guys have any questions or anything? Or did it start to make sense after Pam for you?
My mind must have drifted.
Okay.
It just was like two.
I go
it all
kind of
made
fast.
sense. It was just
Okay.
that one page when you
I understand.
switched.
Okay. Good. Okay, good then. Okay. We're going to right now. Stop recording.